Congratulations, Tyler Reddick, on your win. As of 5:23 p.m. It is still not official, but congratulations, Tyler Reddick. You have won in New Hampshire, and we'll get this uploaded. And if I'm wrong, then oh well. But guys, it's over. They're not going back to racing.
Are you sure about that?
I feel like I've genuinely watched two different races. We've made two different videos. I feel like I've watched two separate NASCAR Cup Series races with two separate winners and everything. Because what the hell have I just watched? And it's, by the way, a very good thing in hindsight I made that first video. If you guys want to hear my thoughts on the first 220-ish laps of this race, go check out the first video, which satirically with the title and the thumbnail is completely outdated. But yeah, this is one crazy situation where I genuinely thought this race was over. That is why I uploaded the video and I edited everything. I was like, this race is over. Like it's not gonna get going. And then once I realized, oh, I've done all this, I've edited the entire thing, and they're gonna get back going, I was like, you know what? We're gonna post it anyways. And it's a really good thing we did, because holy crap, there's no way I could talk about this entire race in under 20 minutes. It's impossible. This video would be 40 minutes long, 50 minutes long, if I had to talk about everything from the start to the end. So go check out that first video. Sky, I have to talk to them. I'm sorry, you need to wait. And the first 10 minutes of that video stands actually really well in hindsight. It doesn't feel outdated, because wow. Just wow. Wet weather NASCAR oval racing truly in the Cup Series for the first time. We have seen it in Xfinity Series, fairly enough yesterday, but it was pretty dry then. But Cup Series racing at a track where you're going like actually in dry weather over 150, 160 miles per hour entering the corner, speeds in the corners staying above 100 miles per hour. So, it's oval racing in the wet truly for the first time ever. And it was one heck of an experience, to say the least. And I could say 100% a learning curve for everyone. That is why I'm not going to get too angry with NASCAR in this video. I will give my opinions. Hopefully you guys give your opinions down below. I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon members, as always, in this video, which I didn't do, to be fair, the last video, so I need to stop saying as always. But thank you guys so much for your support. You guys are the absolute best. Make sure you guys hit the like button. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. I would really, really appreciate it. And let's talk about this thing. So NASCAR is able to get the track into a fairly damp state. They're able to race. Now, there were a few things here. They didn't have windshield wipers on the car, so you can't really afford to have spray, because then the drivers won't be able to see. So they had to make sure the track was at a damp level, not technically a wet level. But the first lap, when you see those cars entering turn one, was definitely a sight to behold, and I thought it was absolutely excellent. Seeing everyone just go all over the place, the apron, by the wall, anywhere you can. Try to avoid the normal New Hampshire racing lines, because you just don't want to go there. I thought it was, like, honestly fantastic to watch the drivers have to tiptoe their way around. And it didn't even feel like they were kind of tiptoeing. It looked like they had the grip. The lap times were about 5 seconds slower based off of dry lap times. Everything looked really cool. And I was really enjoying it. So I don't know about you guys, but when the track was actually genuinely like fully damp and there was no dry line whatsoever, I really enjoyed it. Cautions were definitely, the longest run we had, I think, was probably 10 laps. That was expected, because it's just you're putting almost 36 cars, stock cars, on a 1 mile track, and the entire track is wet, and they're going like 5 wide in corners. Like, they are gonna wreck. But I think the drivers did an absolutely fantastic job, especially on that first stint. Everything was really, really awesome. As the stints go on, it gets a little bit more chaotic, and this is where nobody really knows the protocols. and NBC, Steve Letarte, Jeff Burton, Rick Allen. Shout out Rick Allen for fighting through it. 6 hours on the call, and his voice was absolutely gone. So shout out to Rick Allen for fighting through it. But everybody was just confused. It was just total confusion, because the track was drying. Drivers were like, okay, the track is drying. Like, when are we going to go on slicks? Some other drivers were like, no, it's still wet. And the track was still wet. Dry line was forming. Cautions were coming out. There were wrecks. There was chaos. Oh, by the way, before I mention any of this, actually, I already mentioned it, but Kyle Busch wrecked before we even went back going. Like, Kyle Busch crashed before we even went back going green, guys. So yeah, he did not wreck once. He did not wreck twice. He wrecked 3 times in this race. He did the hat trick. And yeah, that is one of the worst races I've ever seen a driver have, genuinely. And I honestly feel bad for him. If you feel bad for Kyle Busch, leave an F in the comments down below. Press F to pay respects for Kyle Busch. Corey LaJoie also wrecked before the restart. He just did like a little quick spin around coming out of turn 2. So 2 drivers spinning out, one of them crashing, one of them spinning out. Coming off turn 2, yeah, before the race even got back going in wet conditions, we were in for something. Now, this is where it gets a little bit chaotic. As the track is drying, NASCAR has the protocol where they have to decide, NASCAR, you know, the organization, decide whether you be on wet tires, whether you're allowed to change tires, whether you are on dry tires. And one of the reasons for this is because pit road is still wet, so you don't want competitive pit stops because pit road is wet, right? So you have 36 cars entering pit road. On a wet pit road, people can slide. It can be bad. So I understand the non-competitive pit stop part of it. I do understand that. However, there do need to be some changes to this protocol because the last 50 laps of this race weren't necessarily all that enjoyable. It was new and it was freaking crazy. And it was entertaining, but it wasn't necessarily enjoyable because in racing, in wet weather racing, it is the challenge of racing in the wet is not just driving in the wet. It is determining when, you know, what line you have to figure out, when the drive line is coming. It is determining when the crew chief or your team thinks it is right to come in and change tires. It is, you know, the delta point between the change off between a wet tire and a dry tire. When you make that change, how much you can gain in delta on a pit stop based off of that change. That is what weather racing is about, or what weather racing is about. Now, the caveat is you don't usually race in the wet in oval racing. So in all other types of racing, yeah, that is how it is, including in NASCAR and road courses. That is how it is. But in oval racing, it is not like that because in oval racing, it's just more dangerous, I guess, to race in the wet on oval racing. The speeds are higher. However, this race especially, under cautions, not even under green, guys, under cautions, there has to be a change in the protocol. NASCAR cannot be controlling the race teams and saying, if you come down pit lane, you have to put a wet tire on. By the way, everybody has to come down pit lane and put a wet tire on. Everyone has to not come down pit lane and don't change your tires. If you do come down pit lane, you can put fuel in, you can make adjustments, but you can't change tires. NASCAR controlling all that is not okay. That is not how you do wet weather racing. They need to change that immediately. That was the biggest red flag in this race by far, because it is, you are rewarded in wet weather racing for outsmarting or out strategizing your opponents. And if you think that it is okay to go on dry tires, it is your risk that you are taking. It is nobody's duty to hold your hand as a race team or a driver and say, hey, if you want to be the only one that goes on dries and everyone else goes on wets, if you wreck, that's your fault. That is the risk that you are taking. But if you go on dries and everyone else goes on wet and the track is actually dry and you can go a second a lap faster, then you should be rewarded for that. That is the strategy. That is when the track is going from a wet state to a dry state. That is the fun, the excitement of wet weather racing. And you as NASCAR needs to do, they need to let the teams make that decision for themselves. They really, really need to do that. They cannot be controlling. I mean, they were micromanaging every part of this race in terms of the strategy, all the way down to 5 laps to go, telling everyone to come down pit lane for a new set of wet tires. Larson blistered his right rear within 3 laps because he needed dry tires. It should be up to the teams to take those dry tires. But if you go drive on the apron where it's wet, you're going to crash. So you better stay away from there. That's up to the drivers. You can't micromanage everything, NASCAR. You need to let them go. And this goes back to the first video we uploaded earlier today where I'm talking about NASCAR's decision making. It's through the roof out of control. Brad Keselowski spins out with 3 laps to go, and because the race is about to end and because it is getting darker and NASCAR is already on the limit of trying to get this race in, every other scenario where that is a caution, where someone spins out in the middle of a corner, in this scenario, it is not a caution because NASCAR is just trying to get the freaking race in. But in reality, that's not okay. So you're letting Brad Keselowski sit there in the middle of 1 and 2 until Bell enters 1 and 2. That is when you bring out the caution, because Keselowski then gets it rolling. My point here is you can't make up the rules as you go. You can't have a driver spin out with 30 to go and immediately that's a caution, and then with 3 to go it's not a caution because, oh no, it's getting dark. It's, you know, you cannot change the rules like that mid-race. You really cannot. Today, the actual on-track product I enjoyed, except for the first stage, but the on-track product I enjoyed. The drivers in the rain, fantastic. They did an absolutely incredible job, and I think it was excellent how the dry line formed. The drivers were fighting for that line. But the micromanaging, that NASCAR just holding the hands of everybody, like this is a toddler series. Like this is under 9s football. Like this, like with flag football, not even tackle football. This was insane. This is like when you go to a go-karting place and like they limit the go-karts to 25 miles per hour at like Disney World or something. This was nuts how much they were holding the hands of the teams, and it took me right out of the experience of like, okay, you need to strategize your way or figure out a way to get track position. Oh wait, you can't. You have everyone stays where they are. Everyone's on the same tire. That's not the point of wet weather racing, especially when it's coming to a dry track, man. That pissed me off so much, man. I don't know about you guys, but that made me really angry. NASCAR seriously needs to not micromanage like that. That was terrible how they did that. So hopefully in the future, the teams are allowed to take the risk, and they're not limited to like, oh, you can't go on this tire. You can't, you cannot do that. You have to do this. The entire field has to do that. No. That's not racing, man. Some of the incidents towards the end of this race, you had Noah Gragson getting on the paint, and anyone who's, you know, a lot of you guys know this about racing. It's in all forms of racing. It's funny enough, it's very like in cycling, if the road is wet and you're like, you know, on your bike, that white paint, guys. Whoo-wee. So literally anything that has white paint and it's wet, you want to stay away. And so Gragson goes on to the paint, and his right side tires, they're just on it for too long, man. It's just like, you just can't do that. Like you cannot, you have to get onto that apron quickly and get away and get across that white paint before you slide on it. So it pissed off Bubba Wallace. Bubba Wallace then decided to stop right in front of Gragson's pistol because he was angry. I don't think you can get angry, honestly, at anyone. This was a first time situation where everyone was learning, and so, you know, yeah, it happens. I guess I could say that to myself when I, you know, talk about NASCAR. On a restart, you had Michael McDowell and this is when that dry line formed. Michael McDowell trying to get into that third lane to, you know, push out Ryan Blaney, and it just didn't work. He just drove it in there. He didn't have the grip, and he spun out. And again, this is that thing where it's like, Radman, why are you asking for teams to go on dry tires? I'm not asking for teams to go on dry tires. I'm asking for NASCAR to let the teams do what they want. If you think it's right to go on dry tires, go on them. That's your own risk. That's part of racing. Like, that's not, you can do it if you want. Like, it's you know, there should be no restrictions on that. The final restart, Christopher Bell is able to jump away. He's in that preferred third lane. Everyone's trying to fight for that preferred third lane, and he finally wins at New Hampshire after a 6-hour race where it was basically pitch black dark, or getting close to pitch black dark. One of the wildest races I have ever seen, and definitely a learning experience. Like I said, maybe I went too hard earlier on NASCAR with you know, the micromanaging stuff. This is everyone's first time, so I get that. Like, it's the first time, but I just hope NASCAR look at it and they're like, let's back away. It's not about us. It's about the drivers and the teams on the racetrack. Like, let them do it. Just you gotta let them do it, man. The updated race results: Christopher Bell, Briscoe, Barry, Larson, Busher, Reddick, Stenhouse, John Hunter, Nemechek, Martin Truex Jr., and Ross Chastain round out your top 10. Now, if you go compare that to the race results before this race got restarted, you can see it is extremely different. Justin Haley, who got a top 5. Michael McDowell, who got a top 5. Nope. You guys are to the back. Justin Haley back in 29th. Michael McDowell back in 15th Austin Cindric, who would have gotten a top 10 if this race was called. Nope, he's in 19th. Denny Hamlin, who would have finished in 3rd. Nope, you are 24th. Ryan Blaney, who would have finished in 2nd. Nope, you are 25th. So it is kind of crazy when you look back on it, when the race definitely maybe would have been called before, but NASCAR held out. They did the right thing. They waited and they tried to get it back going. They got back going, and everything was all over the place. What didn't change is Kyle Busch and Alex Bowman towards the back. Alex Bowman still the blown engine. I wonder what he feels about all this. Like, Bowman with a blown engine. He didn't get to experience this. Do you think he's sad about that? Like, do you think he wanted to be out there? I'm pretty sure he did. But maybe he got an early flight back home or something, or maybe hanging on the motorhome. I don't know, but I would have wanted to been out there. That was chaos. And then we have the updated playoff standings. Joey Logano is plus 13 on Bubba Wallace since Bubba Wallace got involved in that crash. So, before the red flag, he was minus 10, goes up to plus 13. Christopher Bell has now 3 wins on the season and is only 1 playoff point behind Kyle Larson for that number 1 seed. You have Briscoe in 18th, Kyle Busch in 19th, Josh Berry in 20th. Briscoe with that 2nd place finish really gets a great result for him. And with everyone around him, Logano, Kyle Busch, and Bubba Wallace all having issues, he gains a lot of points today. Buescher is plus 50, Bowman is plus 59, Gibbs is plus 82, Chastain is plus 93 with Truex at plus 155. I think that might be it. Over the course of 2 videos, it has probably been 40 minutes worth of talking. I think that is enough. Guys, what did you think of this race? You might have to write like a 5-paragraph essay about this race. It was genuinely chaotic. My thoughts aren't even fully I can't comprehend them. Like, I don't even know what I think of that race. Just a crazy experience. I think it's a learning experience for everyone, and I just hope the next time we have a wet weather scenario, NASCAR can do a much better job managing it. That's just my hope. I think this could have been absolutely spectacular if the teams were put in that box of hey, it's 15 laps to go. Your wet tires are blistering. What do you want to do? Do you want to come down and take drives? That would have been massively crazy, genuinely nuts, and I wanted to see that. But yeah, it's not in the protocols. Congratulations to Christopher Bell, and shout out. This is much better than it getting rained out and Reddick being the winner. No offense to Tyler Reddick, but much better than it being rained out. The full race was put in. It was absolutely chaotic. Shout out to the fans in New Hampshire that stayed. I know a lot of them didn't, and fair enough. It was like a tornado freaking warning over there. I get it. And honestly, I don't think any of us thought that race was going to get back going when there was water dumping off of Reddick's freaking pit box. So take care of yourselves. I will see you guys tomorrow. Follow me on Instagram already. Subscribe if you're new. What a crazy freaking day, man. Absolutely insane. By the way, this is way better than a boring ass New Hampshire race in summer in 2019. Okay, way better than that. Take care of yourselves and see you guys tomorrow. Peace out.